Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
What's going on, guys? It's Filthy and I'm back with another video. Today we're taking a look at the top Demon Hunter build on the EU boards, which is the UE Multishot. Now this is probably my favourite Demon Hunter build. I do personally prefer this over Impale, although they are both pretty good. Rapid fire is pretty strong, but at the moment it looks like Multishot is the way to go because we can use the season theme and get the conventional elements into the cube. I would say it's a little squishier than it normally is just because we are losing a layer of mitigation, but it's still pretty powerful. So in the background I think we're just casually sauntering around to a 100, just trying to work on my gems for the season. But before we jump into it, anyone who's new, welcome. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. And as always guys, a thumbs up always brightens my day. So jumping in and looking at the gear, we're going to take 5 pieces of UE, so we're going to take the Crimson set as well, and also a Ring of Royal Grandeur in the cube to make up the bonuses. For the UE set, the 2-piece, our generators get an additional 2 hatred and 1 discipline. Both of those things are really great. We spend a lot of hatred with Multishot, and also discipline improves our damage, so both those things are pretty handy. On the 4-piece we gain 60% damage reduction and deal 60% increased damage for 8 seconds, provided there is no enemy within 10 yards. Now this is going to synergise really well with some other items. This is this little buff here. So if this drops off, particularly maybe if you get a power or shield pylon and you just jump yourself into some enemies, that's probably pretty sloppy play and this will drop off, so just keep an eye on it. But provided it's up, 60% damage reduction and that bonus damage as well. Now on the 6-piece, our generators, Multishot, Vengeance all deal 350% increased damage for every point of max discipline we have. So obviously we want to get as much max discipline as we can. We want this orb to be as full as possible. So it works basically on how full this is. So if we've got 86, then it's 86 times 350%, and that's our kind of base multiplier. If we've only got 1 discipline in here, if we've almost expunged it, then we only get 1 times 350. So as you can probably guess, if you drain your discipline, then you're going to be in a bad situation because you're not going to be doing much damage. Don't worry, there's loads of resource cost reduction in this build, so discipline is pretty much full the whole way. But I normally forget this, so let's do it now. You can get max discipline as a secondary on your bow, also on your quiver. So both those rolls 12 is very important. You can get it on your chest piece, again trying to aim for 12, so there's some places that you can pick it up. I don't think there's anywhere else, but obviously if there is, I'm sure someone will jump in the comments and let me know. Now in terms of Multishot, we're going to juice it up with a Yang's recurve, so we attack 50% faster, so we get a huge attack speed buff, which is great. We also get 200% multiplier on Multishot, again very nice. We're going to pair it with a Dead Man's Legacy. This will again give us up to 200% multiplier, but we also hit enemies below 60% health twice with Multishot, so it really does beat down hard on enemies that have got under 60% health. So very nice. Now the Crimson set works really well because we get lots of benefits. We get extra cooldown on the 2-piece, so 20% extra CDR. We also get 20% resource cost reduction. The resource cost reduction is very handy for Multishot because it is thirsty, and also the 3-piece, more cooldown is more damage, and more resource cost reduction is more toughness. Now that's good because it means that you can scale this build. So let's say I've gone for cooldown everywhere, so I've got it on my gloves, on my shoulder piece, and also cooldown gem in the helm. But if you wanted to be tankier, you could certainly put a topaz here, get some extra damage reduction, and you could probably take off one of these cooldown rolls and go for resource cost. What I would say for cooldown though is you want to be making sure that you're getting to about 37-38%, which is the break point for permanent uptime on Vengeance, which we'll go over in the skills. Now other modifier we've got is focus and restraint, so when we hit with a resource generating attack or primary skill we get 50% increased damage for 5 seconds. So we're going to take evasive fire, so when we click this, 50% extra damage for 5 seconds. Now the second part of it is going to be when we hit with a resource spending attack, we again get a second 50% modifier, again for 5 seconds. So Multishot will handle that. So both of those things being up, it's over double damage. It's again pretty nice. Now we're going to take a Squirt's necklace, so when we don't take any damage, our damage increases up to 100%. So this is this buff here. It will drop off if you get hit, so obviously ranged attacks will knock this off, elemental stuff that appears on the ground will knock it off, and then it just kind of builds back up over time. So It doesn't take too long, but again, you want to be keeping away from stuff because you want this up as much as possible. Now the negative effect of squirts is that when you do take damage, that damage is increased by 50%. Because this build is just bonkers tough, that doesn't matter too much, so you don't need to worry. You're not glass cannon, it's not like you're paper thin, you can afford to take damage and it doesn't kind of end your run. Now one of the reasons that we are so tough is because Yang's recurve will actually roll 40 to 50% resource cost reduction. So bear in mind the Captain Crimson's 3-piece gives us damage reduction for that, so that is an absolutely bonkers toughness buff, and that is why we are really tanky. Also helping out with toughness is Raps of Clarity. Our hatred generators reduce damage taken by 50%, so we want to be hitting evasive fire every 5 seconds for focus and restraint. Synergizes perfectly with the Raps of Clarity because that gives us 50% damage reduction for 5 seconds as well. Legendary gem wise, we've got a Bane of the Trapped. There is a passive that we can use to proc this at range, so that is flat damage against everything other than Juggernaut. We're going to be taking a Zystone of Vengeance. This synergizes obviously really well with the set in general. The further away we are, the more damage we do. We also get a chance to stun, which is quite nice because it means that you pump out lots of multi-shots, you can get a few stuns, stop enemies in their tracks, just enough time to kill them. Obviously not mega important, but it does help a little bit. And then finally, obviously this is a push build, so Bane of the Stricken, more damage against the boss, and then again, as multi-shot attacks really quickly, you build these stacks up fairly fast, and it's going to really hurt the Rift Guardian, and particularly those tough elites, and useful for Juggernaut as well, I'd say, building up the stacks. In the cube, we're going to take the Convention of Elements. This is going to give us a 200% damage bonus. This is either going to be on fire or physical cycle, depending on which variant you want to play. We'll talk about that when we get to the skills in a minute. And we'll also, classic item here, Dawn one-handed crossbow. This will reduce the cooldown on Vengeance for 65%. That allows us to have perma uptime at that 37-38% cooldown range. So I think that probably covers the gear, so let's have a look at the skills. Now the top clear is using Multishot with full broadside. This probably, I think, is the slightly better way to go, but it's not massively better than Arsenal, which is the fire rune. So either of these two would be fine. Now what I would say is, personally, I would be guided by the gear that I get. Now, on your braces, it's quite easy to get braces, they're quite cheap to roll at Kadala, so I would say probably Amulet is the way to go. Now obviously I've got double crit decks, but if let's say I found a really GG one with fire on, I would basically find a pair of Raps of Clarity to match fire, and then I'd go for the fire rune. But my amulet is totally open, so I can pick, so I've decided to go for physical, because it does just seem to do that little bit of extra damage. But either, just be guided by your gear, and as I say, top clear is using this one, but I've played a lot with Arsenal in the past. For the generator, evasive fire with the cauldron seems to make a bit of sense, so this will backflip us normally, but obviously the rune takes that off. But what it does is it gives us extra hatred. Now we're activating this every 5 seconds for focus and restraint, so getting the extra hatred is fine, helps us out a bit because obviously multi-shot is thirsty, so the extra hatred I think is just the most beneficial thing. Now in the actual top clear, it doesn't have Companion Wolf Companion. I've just put this on because it just seems like extra damage, so you activate this and you get a 15% damage buff for 10 seconds. So ideally you want to be in an ocular circle with your convention on the correct cycle when you activate this, but just bear in mind it's extra damage whenever you press it. Now the top clear is actually using smoke screen, so, and it has the lingering fog rune. So smoke screen, when you pop it, it will make you invisible for 1 second. It doesn't start the cooldown until that finishes, and obviously you can increase the duration with lingering fog up to 1.5 seconds. Now spending discipline generally is bad. Again, we've got crazy high resource cost reduction, so it's not too bad. What I've just found is that it is, I personally find it a little difficult to know when to press this, when not to press it, so I just prefer Wolf Companion because I just know more damage, press this button. Vengeance Seethe, this is pretty much a staple. When this is up, we're going to gain 10 hatred per second, so that is very nice. Now traditionally for multi-shot you get the Dark Heart rune with the Visage of Goons. That normally gives us this 50% damage reduction, so we are missing that, so that is one of the reasons we're a little squishy. But Seethe, don't take this off, obviously 10 hatred per second is pretty big. Preparation, invigoration, this will give us instant discipline. We're not really going to use it for that. We're going to use it for the invigoration rune, which is going to give us max discipline of 20. So remember, more points of discipline is more damage. Now where I would say that this comes in handy is, let's say you get a map and you get lost and you have to do a lot of teleporting, a lot of vaulting around to get somewhere. Well, you can just pop this and you'll normally get back to full discipline. So useful just in case you end up dry on discipline, you can pop it. So that does bring us to Vault and Tumble. So this is our teleport, this is how we get around the map. It does cost discipline. Again, the crazy high resource cost reduction means that it barely impacts us, and particularly with the Tumble rune, when we do a second vault within 6 seconds, we get another 50% RCR on that one particular vault. So the great thing is, it means it's really easy to reposition yourself. If you want to jump into an ocular circle, if you want to backflip away from stuff, it is pretty easy. So as I say, that's the setup. The only one different on the top clear is this skill here. In terms of passives, Ambush, we deal 40% extra damage to enemies above 75% health. So we're already dunking on enemies with less than 60% health because we're double hitting them with Multishot. Over 75% health, we're giving this nice 40% additional damage. So it's only really the 60 to 75% health bracket that isn't getting a multiplier. So obviously pretty nice. Call of the Week, we will deal extra damage against slowed or chilled enemies by 20%, and this is procced by Thrill of the Hunt. So our Hatred Spenders, which is Multishot, slows enemies for 80% for 2 seconds. That activates Bane of the Trapped and activates Call of the Week. So yeah, pretty nice. And then Steady Aim just seems to synergize with Multishot quite well. As long as there are no enemies within 10 yards, all damage is increased by 20%. Now this is for the physical version, so if you want fire, what you probably want to be taking is ballistics, which will give you up to 100% damage on your rockets. Now I probably would take off Steady Aim or Call of the Week. Probably Call of the Week because Steady Aim will at least work against Juggernaut, whereas this one won't because you can't slow a Jug. But that would be, I think, pretty much the only passive swap. And we don't actually play with a cheat death. I do die in both 100 clears. I teleport out the way, well I think I do, but I get squished and don't press teleport quick enough. What I would say is because of the way Multishot plays, you generally, at range, you're generally looking for that nice map with slow monsters that don't have any ranged attacks. If you do take this and you don't use it, obviously it's a bit of a waste, but if you do want a smoother ride, again, take one of these 20% damage ones off and stick awareness on. So you definitely can take it, nothing wrong with it at all. Now in terms of swaps, if you are finding it is a little squishy for you, because as I say we are losing the Visage of Goons, which would normally go here in the cube, what you can do this season is instead of taking the Convention of Elements, you can actually take the Elusive Ring. This will give you 60% damage reduction after you vault, so obviously you vault fairly often, so that will be up quite a lot of the time, so that will probably be a preferred choice just for some extra damage reduction. But honestly, before doing this, I would try a Topaz in the helm, and I would also maybe try swapping off a cooldown roll for a resource cost roll, just to see if that will help you out a little bit. But really, this is quite a tough build. It's only kind of if you teleport yourself into trouble that you're going to end up with a bit of difficulty. So in terms of stats, you want to stack area damage absolutely everywhere you can. Now, I've got cooldown on my pieces. I probably should re-roll just to test area damage, but you can get multi-shot damage on your boots, on your helm, and also on your offhand. I would say ideally you want crit chance and multi-shot damage on the helm because it is quite a tough build, and again it is at range, you're trying to avoid damage rather than tank it. And then for your offhand, multi-shot damage, area damage, crit chance, attack speed, just basically full damage stats everywhere you can get them. Again, you don't need cooldown on the rings because you're only really looking to get kind of over that 37-38%, but obviously with the Crimsons a bit more cooldown is a bit more leeway, and it is also more damage anyway. So yeah, area damage fine, attack speed, yeah, you could probably get some attack speed on it as well, but other than that, you make sure your multipliers are as high as you can. That's very important. So the max discipline everywhere, 200% as close to on the bow, 200% as close to on the offhand, and you should be fine. So that's it guys, I can't really think of too much else to say. Obviously we want all res gems in the gear, which obviously you've seen as we've done it. It is a lot of fun. It's quite a good push build. It's far cry from some of the barb ones I've been playing this season, which is up in the thick of things. We are trying to keep our distance, but I do hope demon hunting gets a bit of a buff for next season, because even though I've got this fairly juiced at 14k main stat, you can tell it is just not quite as hard hitting as something like Whirlwind or even the Witch Doctor. So fingers crossed this will get a bit of a buff in general, and fingers crossed the new Demon Hunter set is pretty baller as well. That's it guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you're staying safe during the epidemic we've got on at the moment. I'll be back with some more videos just as soon as I can. Take it easy, peace.